Highway to the danger zone. Hello, and welcome to a special New Year's Eve recording, is when we're recording, episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, the podcast where Matt and Todd watch the number one movie on the Netflix Top 10 self-published Netflix list. But it has to be a movie, no shows. And then we talk about it, record it, you listen to it, and then we all move on with our lives. I really need to come up with a better intro because that was really choppy. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy. Yes, welcome to this next episode. This will be the last episode recorded in the year 2020. Ooh,
2020. Or probably what people would be like, boo, 2020, boo.
Yes, but so yeah, we are recording on New Year's Eve in our separate lockdown locations.
True, but Matt, I have a realization that I'd like to share with you.
Oh,
That it just kind of came on me tonight as I was watching a movie while eating my dinner.
okay.
The movie was Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield from the 80s.
Uh-huh.
And I realized that this is probably an I'm getting older thing. As I get older, some of those movies from the 80s, specifically a couple with Rodney Dangerfield, I'm rooting for the quote unquote bad guys in those movies. Like when I think about Caddyshack and Back to School, the quote-unquote bad guys in those movies are people who just didn't want riffraff. And as I get older, I don't know if I want riffraff around either. Just ruining my golf game or distracting me while I'm trying to learn at school.
That's deep, Todd. That's a deep thought for this New Year's Eve recording.
That's probably my deepest thought of 2020, maybe.
Wow.
And it just came in under the wire.
Under the wire, last day of the year.
Means I'm getting older, I guess. As you get older, maybe you don't like to deal with you don't like all the horseplay, as they say. I don't know.
You don't like shenanigans.
Shenanigans, yeah. When I was younger, I loved shenanigans, but as I get older, I'm like, you know what? This isn't planned out. I don't know what's happening here. I'm not prepared for this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I felt like I needed to share that with you.
I'm too tired for this.
Yeah, too tired for this.
Get off my lawn. You darn
Too tired
kids.
for these shenanigans, yeah. I don't even have a yard, but I don't want anyone on it.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for sharing that with me, Todd.
You're welcome.
Now I think we'll go into a movie review in our movie review podcast. Tonight we're going to be talking about a new movie that just came out on Netflix. It's a Netflix movie, so never went to theaters or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's called The Midnight Sky, and it is a sci-fi dealio with George Clooney. He directed it and he started it. Yeah. So, what's the connection between Highway to the Danger Zone and The Midnight Sky?
Just that there are jets that fly through the sky in that movie,
Uh-huh.
and the name of this one is Midnight Sky.
Uh-huh.
As I shared with you before the podcast, there's a Miley Cyrus song out now that is called Midnight Sky that I actually like, but I don't know it that well, and I wasn't gonna look it up. It just feels like cheating if I look something up thoroughly before we record. Some might call that just being prepared, but I think it's cheating. I like to rely on the old noggin here for impromptu singing sessions when we open up the podcast.
For the most part, I agree with you that it's cheating. Our podcast was founded on the idea of no research, gut reactions only.
True.
Although we do a little bit of research now to tell you a few things about the movie, but
Yeah, but that's only because of Dan Domer and us having to appease him. That was his request.
well, I think it's worked out. We're number 9 in Luxembourg after all.
I gotta hang on to that one for a while. That's our crowning jewel right there.
That's right.
Uh,
So The Midnight Sky. What is this movie about? Well, we haven't talked about who's in it. Well, the main person who's in it is George Clooney. There are a
yes.
couple other people who have been in some things
Yeah.
that I recognized. Felicity Jones has been in a couple things,
Hmm.
and David Oyelowo.
Yes.
Oyelowo. I'm not sure how to say his name exactly,
I'm not even gonna try because I don't think I can.
but he played Martin Luther King Jr. in the movie Selma.
Yes.
Um, who else? Who else did you recognize, Todd?
The only person who I recognize that was not on your list is Kyle Chandler, who was also on the spaceship. He most notably, I think, is he's the coach from Friday Night Lights, the show, which I thoroughly enjoy. But also, he was kind of quote unquote the main character from Godzilla King of the Monsters, which came out 2 years ago or whatever, which I enjoy as a movie. So, not because of him, I enjoy Godzilla, but he was in that. If you're looking for maybe a most recent thing, I think that's one of his most recent. So, yeah, but that's it. I can't. None of these other people. Maybe they popped up someplace else, but no one notable to me. If we're wrong, correct us.
Yeah, it's all good. I think that covers. This movie doesn't have a lot of people in it, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we covered the notables there. So what's it about? Well, this movie is based on a book called Good Morning Midnight. So you can watch the movie or not based on our review, and then you can read the book, which we haven't read, but I'll just
Sure.
put it out there.
I like
Um,
the book's title more than I like the movie's title.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
They both have the word midnight in them.
True.
Um, okay, so what's this about? Well, so George Clooney, the movie kind of opens up. There's like some kind of evacuation going on from this like space telescope observatory type place,
Mm-hmm.
um, and everybody's leaving, but he's staying there and he's sick. He needs like this blood infusion thing every week.
Dialysis, I
Yeah,
believe, is what he's getting.
yeah. So, um, so he's gonna stay behind. He's not gonna go with the people who are evacuating. And they're like, "Well, best of luck to you." And there's a little bit of chaotic scene of people like evacuating. We don't know why they're leaving at that point. Um, but but basically, what we learn later on is there's been some kind of catastrophe on Earth, and so certain people are moving to like underground shelters temporarily to kind of wait out the disaster. It's some they never tell you what it is. It's something with radiation, and if you stay above ground, you're gonna die. Um,
Yes.
and he is sick enough that he didn't care. He was just gonna ride it out and take his lumps. Um, so what we also
He's also in Antarctica where he's at, which is gonna be one of the last places that the radiation hits. So he has longer than everyone else.
I thought he was in Greenland.
Was it Greenland?
I think it's
Wherever he's at, they do make the point where he's like, "You'll have a lot more time than everyone else because
right,
it's gonna take a while for everything to hit up here."
right. Um, so something else we find out about this guy is this guy's name is Augustine. That's his first name,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like a scientist, which is probably why he's at the telescope observatory place. And he, you get some flashback scenes to earlier in his life where he sort of is making the pitch as a younger man to say, "Hey, we should go check out um, this moon of Jupiter, which I think could be inhabitable, based on like various things. And based on that, uh, an expedition has flown from Earth to go there and is on its way back. Um, so he is trying to um, make a connection, a communication connection with this spaceship that's coming back from this planet. Well, not a planet, a moon. Um, and so you get a little bit of what's going on the spaceship too, and that's where the other characters come in. Um, on the spaceship, you've got Felicity Jones's character Sully and David Oyelowo, 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 his character, whose name is Adewale.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have. I can't imagine they. I don't know how long this voyage was, but
2 years at some
okay,
point was
was
thrown
said
around.
right.
Yeah.
So Sully is pregnant by Adewale, and
Right.
they are they're expecting a kid, and they're on their way back to Earth with some other crew members as well. So all this to say, eventually George Clooney gets in contact with the ship, but he has to leave his space telescope station and go even farther north to a weather station, which has some kind of stronger, powerful communication satellite dish, and that's how he can connect with them. And then, uh, yeah, without spoilers, there's not a whole lot more I can go into.
Well, the only big thing that you're missing is that around the time he makes contact with the telescope, he finds a kid at his station
Oh, that's
that
right.
got left behind by everyone else when they left. So he has to do this perilous journey with the kid.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, it's probably
so
8 or 9 year old girl is what my estimate on her age.
yes,
And yeah, they are they have a perilous journey through the Arctic um, on snowmobile, and then eventually they lose the snowmobile, and it's just them walking.
yeah, they hoof it.
Yeah, but they do make it to the place and make contact with the spaceship.
Yes,
And then the spaceship has to decide what to do, whether they're gonna try and land on radiated Earth, or if they're gonna try and maybe go back to this moon. So
yes.
so that's it. What did you think of this movie, Todd?
Well, Matt, I will say that I am not a big fan of this movie. I it's not like horrible or anything, but it is one. It's far too long. It's a long, really slow movie, and if your movie's really slow, it needs to be also really interesting. And I found that there's interesting parts, but it wasn't enough interesting to keep me involved the whole time. Like, don't introduce a catastrophe on Earth if you're not going to talk about it or explain it, or at least do some scenes that tell us accurately what's going on. Like, and um, the acting in this movie is fine. Like, I don't really feel like I can speak ill of that aspect. And there's of course some pretty good cinematography. There's some pretty beautiful space scenes and stuff like that, and even cinematography of, like, the perilous journey and stuff like that is all pretty good. I mean, all those are, I think, are above average. But I just really, the story of this movie just really was not a hit with me. I don't like this kind these kind of movies where you don't have all the information. Like, yeah, the Earth screwed the pooch, and it's not there. Something bad happened. Well, tell me what happened. Like, it doesn't have to be a long explanation, but I'd like to know. Also, I found it incredibly unbelievable that two astronauts on a mission would not only bone but get pregnant. That was like one of the most, for a sci-fi movie, that was one of the most unbelievable parts of this movie to me. Who's gonna get pregnant in space? Like, just seems like you're asking for trouble. I found it dumb. Like, I don't know what else to say. If you're gonna bone in space, like, then take precautions. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but don't get pregnant in space. It just seems like a bad idea. Um, so I don't know. The slowness of this movie and me being frustrated with the story and not having all the story. And there's one aspect of this movie that also frustrated me that I don't know if anyone's going to relate to this, but a portion of this movie is understanding Augustine's character of he spent all of his life to science and stuff like that. And now presumably his life is coming to an end, and it's a lot of self thinking and all that kind of stuff. But and there's a scene where like he is with someone, presumably his girlfriend, maybe his wife. You don't get much story beyond that, and um, you know, they have a kid and she's leaving him and stuff like that, and they have this emotional. Well, she has an emotional goodbye. He's kind of like an emotionalist person there, and she talks about you need to live your life and stuff like that. And for some reason, I found myself so disconnected to that scene because for someone of Augustine's character who they portray in this movie as a scientist and as a person who wants to discover worlds and that's what he wants to do with his life, he did that and does that. Like I don't understand why he's not fulfilled. Like everything you're told about this character is that this is what he wanted to do. And some woman comes around and says, "Oh, it doesn't mean anything if you don't have love or whatever." It's like, well, he was a pretty big benefit to mankind, and he seemed very satisfied with himself until maybe other people convinced him that he should have felt something different or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. Anyone will relate that at all when they watch it, but for some reason that was very frustrating to me. So, now that I've shared something that probably no one can relate to, I'll end it there and pass it over to you, Matt. What did you think of this movie?
Well, maybe a bit of a differing point of view. Um, this is definitely heavy sci-fi space stuff, which I thought that they did really well. It's it's easier than ever to have scenes in space and on spaceships and stuff like that these days with CGI and everything, but it's still not easy to do it well. And I
Sure.
thought that the space scenes, especially, were very good in this movie. Um, Including, there's one scene where they've got blood going on, and there's
Yeah.
blood in weightlessness that I think is just handled almost amazingly. I was just like, wow, how it took me out of the movie a little bit to say, how did they film this? Which they probably just put the blood in afterwards, but uh, it was really really good. Good tense scene there too. Um, I thought that the story of this guy it was a little bit slow, but there's peaks and valleys to the story for sure. As
Hmm.
he's kind of deciding to leave one place that can't reach the spaceship because he just wants to kind of help, as he says, and ends up trekking across the Arctic with this little girl. It's I don't know. It's an interesting journey for sure, um, and I was into it. I was into this movie. Maybe uh, maybe more than a lot of people would be, but I thought that the two elements, one of space travel, um, and sort of the associated nerdy science stuff that goes along with it, like they're
Sure.
calculating their flight path and they go off course and they try and figure it out, and um, Yeah, I don't know. I was into it. So I would say overall, I did enjoy the movie. And I think the ending, which I won't spoil for you, but I think the ending was a nice. There's a little bit of a twist at the end, and I thought it was a nice connection. You can see it coming if you are sort of paying attention, but um,
Sure.
I liked it.
I didn't like it. That might be one of the biggest differences we have going on.
Yeah,
But everyone should decide for themselves.
right. But you should listen to both of us because we both have
True.
something to offer in this. Um,
I do agree with you that the space scenes were pretty, like, there was things on that kind of level that I thought were really good. Like, I guess something I've never thought about that they did in this movie. I mean, I would never think about it because I'm not an aspiring astronaut or anything like that. Is they on the outside of their spaceship or whatever you call it are are like an intricate design of 3D printers that if something happens structurally to the outside of the ship, a 3D printer can, basically go on this track or find its way over there and start 3D printing the whatever happened. I don't know if that's plausible, but I thought that was like pretty cool.
yeah, I agree. That was one of the interesting things. Another one was that they had these. Um, First, they had gravity inside the ship at certain parts of the ship
Hmm.
that was generated by like this. There were parts of the ship that were spinning that were generating the gravity, which
Right.
was that's a common science fiction thing that you hear about. I don't know if it's real, if it would really work. And they also had these shields on kind of the ship
Hmm.
that kind of they ended up going through some like small asteroid field, not even that, like ice chunks, and they get pretty smashed up. But I thought it was an interesting idea to even have those there. That's
Right.
kind of cool. So overall, I would say I like the movie, and if you like space, science fiction, space travel, sciencey stuff along those lines, then this is probably a good one for you to watch. Other than that, it's just an average movie if you're not really into that, I think.
Mm. Well, how many? It's an interesting one. I can't remember the name of the moon that they were going to. It's like K123 or something, or 129. Do you remember? I
Uh,
was gonna have that be the grading system, but I can't remember.
I don't remember the it was KB something, and it was
Yeah.
letters like KB 23 or 22 or something.
Well, let's just bring it. How many nuclear clouds would you give this movie? That is could be what's destroying the Earth. I don't know. They never actually describe it, but
Hmm. And that is true to the book. The book also does not describe exactly what has happened.
I wouldn't have liked the book either. Then
Yeah. Um, so, how many nuclear clouds? 0 to 5. 5 nuclear clouds being the best rating ever for this movie.
the best.
Yes. I'm going to give it a uh, 3 nuclear clouds out of 5. And that's mostly based on, as I talked about, my interest in space travel and nerdy things that were that played a prominent role in this movie. So, 3.
Gotcha.
What about you?
I think I'm gonna give it like a 2.3, just a notch below average, just because I really disconnected with the story. But I also am trying to give it some credit because I do think some of the cinematography and all that stuff, all that space travel was pretty good. Like we've talked about, it was imaginative and all that kind of stuff. It's just if the story's not there, it's just gonna bring down the movie so much to me, and I just really couldn't connect with this story. But that being said, if you have Netflix, go watch it. Like, um, seems to be people. I've seen both people post that it's boring and it's awesome. So you got to figure out which camp you're going to be in. So
Todd's in the boring camp. I'm in the awesome camp. Although not really. I didn't think it was awesome. I thought it was good.
yeah,
Okay, well, we've talked a while here, and so that's gonna wrap it up for this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we reviewed The Midnight Sky, and we gave it an average rating of 2.65 nuclear clouds out of 5, and
nice.
that is a slightly above average rating. But thank you for listening to our podcast. Please keep listening. We'll keep making them. And we'll see you soon.
Oh yeah. Da 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 da.
Da da
Da da da.
da da da.